This has really been a dream that's been 20 years in the making, and it's been a windy road. God did not lead them along the main road that runs through the Philistine territory, even though that was the shortest route to the promised land. God led them in a roundabout way. And I think God gives us 3 answers when we find ourselves on detours. The first one is no, because it's the right plan, but it's the wrong timing. Sometimes God says not yet to us, because sometimes God has to work on us, and sometimes God has to work for us before he can work through us. But it's that process that puts us in the right season at the right time. Number 3 is now, or yes. I think this church is a part of that. We want to come alongside of people and help you become who God created you to be. Believe plus receive equals become. And it really starts with a decision like this to make God your everything.
Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to Cedar Bend Church. My name is Megan Hove and I'm part of the lead team here at Cedar Bend. And I just wanted to wish you and your family a very happy Easter today, and thank you so much for joining us. If you or anyone that you know has any specific felt needs during this crazy season that we're all living in, please feel free to text us at 715-226-6335. And we'd love to be able to just come alongside of you and help deliver groceries or run an errand for you, and just meet any of those needs during this season. Also, if you have any specific prayer requests that you want to let us know about as well, you can also text us at that same number, and we'd love to be praying with you and your family during this season. Hey, if it's your first time connecting with us and joining us online, we just want to say thank you so much for coming. We would love to send you a little thank you, and so if you can text us, Cedar Bend at 94000, we'd love to just send you an e-gift card to Caribou Coffee, just as our way of saying thanks so much for coming this morning. If you have littles with you at home right now, go ahead after service and hop onto our Facebook page. We have some kids videos that we've uploaded there. We're going to continue just to upload additional content and activities for you to do with your family during this season, just to continue to keep our kiddos engaged during this time. Speaking of that, it is last call for Easter Bingo. So if you didn't get a chance to check that out, head to our Facebook page. Let us know if you got any bingos in the last week or so. We're going to be announcing the winners for that tomorrow, Monday, on our social pages as well. Lastly, if you choose to give this morning, you can do so by either texting to give, or you can hop on our website at cedarbendchurch.com and give online as well. Hey, with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the rest of the service and join Eaglebrook for worship and hear an Easter message from Pastor Matt. Thanks, everyone, and have a great Sunday.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to church. That's right. This is church. No matter where you're watching, where you're gathered, in your living room, the kitchen, your bedroom, watching on an iPhone, an iPad, a computer, it doesn't matter. This is church because you are church. And this church has proven to be a church that turns towards the name of Jesus and worships him despite our circumstances. Friends, we invite you to stand and sing with us. I was on the other side of the camera last week and I stood to my feet. It felt a little awkward at first, but of course, like always, if you're here and all you want to do is just take it in and let the worship wash over you, we are always okay with that. We are just so glad you're here with us. But we are now laying all of our fears, all of our anxiety, all of the unknown at the feet of Jesus. How are we going to do that? By worshiping his name, by singing his name over and over and over again, just like we're going to do right now with this song, all right? Carla's gonna kick us off. Friends, let's sing about the name of Jesus together. Come on. Jesus. Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name. Silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, sing out his name. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Oh, we need you. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is light that the shadows can't deny. Lord, your name cannot be overcome. Your name is light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, so good. We will not fear, no. Oh, Jesus, sing his name. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Come on, let's sing it. Your name is alive that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome.
truth together today. Christ Bible says in Isaiah 28, "Look, I am placing a foundation stone in Jerusalem, a firm and tested stone. It's a precious cornerstone that is safe to build on. Whoever believes needs not to ever be shaken." In the middle of a world of uncertainty, we have a hope that goes beyond our circumstance. And so can I invite you today, wherever you find yourself, whether you're full of fear or you're full of faith, whether you're at your kitchen table or your living room couch, to sing and believe that Jesus always has been and always will be our cornerstone. Come on, every voice we sing. Christ alone is the cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, He's Lord of all, He's still Lord of all. Christ alone, the cornerstone, the weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of You have always been a firm foundation. You will always stay our cornerstone. So we can trust in you, Lord. We can trust in you. You have always been, and you'll always be a firm foundation where we plant our feet. So we trust in you, Jesus. We trust in your name. Come on, together one more time. Can we sing this together? Christ alone. Christ alone. The cornerstone, the weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. So today, God, we trust in you. Put our hope in you. There's so much going on in our world. We just acknowledge in this moment that we need you. We need your perspective. We need your wisdom. So, Lord, thank you for joining us in the struggle, joining us in the uncertainty. But thank you for being Lord over all of it. Thank you for never once being uncertain or unsure of what tomorrow holds. We trust you. We look to you and to you alone today for our families, for our homes, for our relationships. We put it all in your hands today. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Hey everyone, happy Easter. So great to have you all with us here for Easter Sunday. And I have to tell you that when we were planning a church, this is not how I had it in my mind, that we would all be online, sitting at home on our couches for Easter Sunday. But here we are, you know, and it's just been a very interesting season. But you know what? I think God is really still in all this, and excited to be here just sharing a message with you this morning, which is called, Where is this God of yours? And that comes from Psalms 42:3. And it's really just this rhetorical question that the psalmist asks, going, where is God? Where'd he go? Like, what's going on? And I think it's just a very common question that when we get into seasons of crisis, that I think we all can ask that question, like, where is God in all of this? And so I really wanted to address that head on as we really are facing an unprecedented time, to really identify where is God in all of this when we get into moments of challenge and overwhelming sometimes fear and anxiety that I think many of us are facing currently. And so, when I ask that question, where is God, it usually involves either a hunting or a fishing moment in my life. So I can tell you one time when God was absolutely with me. So this goes back to the year 2003. I think you're seeing a picture of me when I'm a teenager, or I look like a teenager. This is the former Matt, a few pounds ago, I might add as well. But at any rate, in 2003, went up to the Boundary Waters. We were on Basswood Lake, one of my favorite lakes. If you've never been, you gotta go to the Boundary Waters. I think it's a bucket list trip. But anyways, fantastic, just place on God's green earth. And my dad and I were there. We were up with a group of teenagers. And my dad and I were fishing one night, and we happened to just find this little peninsula, and it just jutted out, and there was a hump there that we just started slaying the fish one after another. We were catching bass, we were catching walleye, catching northern, caught all kinds of fishes, just one pass after another. We were just trolling topwaters, and we just kind of nailed them. And lo and behold, so you saw this picture, I ended up catching, get this, not a fish story, got the picture, a 23 3/4 inch smallmouth bass. We ended up taking it back. Didn't even have a ruler. We had rope that we roped it off with. So now you know it's a fish story. But anyways, we got the picture as proof that it was just a monster fish. And my dad, when I was catching this thing, he ended up saying, "It's a football. It looks like a football just coming out of the water." And that just still rings in my ears. And we took it back to the outfitter, measured it out, and he goes, I think you probably let the state record swim smallmouth bass. He goes, I show that being probably an 8.5 pound fish that you let swim, and the state record is 8 pounds. You can look it up in Minnesota. So there's your story for the day. But at any rate, that was a moment when I went, God is with me. Like, man, that was amazing. God, that was one of the most incredible moments of my life. One of the most incredible, just clearly the best fish I've ever caught. And it was just this amazing high moment. It was euphoric. We got some nice pictures. Just a phenomenal memory. And then I also have this other side when I'm hunting and fishing. And I think you're about ready to see another picture of the buck that got away. And some of you might know exactly what I'm talking about. You may have one that's racing through your mind even as I say this. So when I was sitting on my deer stand, this is like 7 or 8 years ago, we hunt up by Cumberland, Wisconsin. We own 120 acres up there, and I've been hunting there since I was a kid. It's been in our family since the 50s. And it was opening afternoon. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I hunt this meadow. I'm kind of on this berm that's in the woods, but then I overlook this meadow with some tall grass, just a little open meadow in between two sets of woods. And it started to snow, and it was kind of like a misty, nasty, just kind of junky snow. And then it started to snow just a little bit heavier. And I hadn't seen a deer all day long, and then it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then just in a flash, I saw a doe just skirt through the meadow. And then I usually, what usually follows the doe, and so I'm on alert. And then lo and behold, this monster buck, seriously, the biggest, of course it's the biggest buck I've ever seen, right? Biggest buck I've ever seen. He comes popping out. He's got a drop tine, and he's right there, 70, 80 yards away. And so I just open up. Boom, boom, nothing. Totally missed the buck, right? And I'm going, God, where are you? Like, hey, come on, buddy. Like, that was wall hanger. I mean, that'd be perfect on the wall. God, you got to be with me. What's going on? And I think in big moments and small moments, that's a question we all find ourselves asking. And in many times, it's a much more serious note than fish stories or when we're hunting. But I think you kind of understand kind of the thought process, right? Because I think we all have those moments. And especially when we get into times of crisis. And I think that there's really three types of people who have asked that question, where is God? Where is this God of yours? Throughout the course of history, but then specifically in times of crisis and when we actually look at the crucifixion week. And the first set of people that really ask that question, I think, are skeptics or non-believers, people that go, just not sure. I don't think that there's a God. You're crazy. And there's no God out there. And I think that that's a very common thought. There's no God. What are you even talking about, right? And Matthew 27:43 kind of documents, 43 and 44, documents taunters saying this to God. It says, he trusted God, so let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, I am the Son of God. Even the revolutionaries who were crucified with him ridiculed him in this way. So the picture is Jesus is there. He's getting ready to go through his crucifixion, and there's two guys they're going to be crucified with him. They're ridiculing God, ridiculing Jesus the same way. Where's your God now? Hey, you saved others. Why can't you save yourself? And they're taunting him. And I think that that's a timeless question. It's a timeless question that people that do not believe in God go, where is God? Where is God in all of this crazy world that we're living in, right? Like, let's get real. Where is God? Did God cause COVID? Where is God? Where's God when I lost my job? Where's God when I went on furlough? Where is God? Where is God in all of this? It's a real question. And so I think for us, it comes back to, do we choose in these moments to either accept or reject God? And the reality is people have done both throughout the course of history. But that's the response of skeptics and non-believers. And, then this plays out when we look at Luke 23, 39 through 43. This is a bit of a longer passage, but I'm going to read it just so you get the full picture. It says, one of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself. And hey, save us too while you're at it. But the other criminal protested, don't you fear God even when you've been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man has done nothing wrong. When he said this, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus replied, I assure you, today you'll be with me in paradise. And that's the paradox, right? You've got one guy, one criminal that rejects God. He's getting ready to die, says, you're not God. I don't believe in you. And then you got another guy that goes, wait a second. This truly is the Son of God. There's something different here. And accept me. And that's always the question that skeptics have to wrestle with. Are you going to reject God or are you going to accept him? And I think that that's really something for us to really chew on as we process this time. And what I would say to you is if you're a skeptic, you are so welcome here. I want so much that our church be a place where people can investigate, where people can wrestle, you can ask questions. It's okay to not know all the answers. It's okay to ask the difficult questions, because I think that if we seek after those things, we'll find the truth. And I'm not afraid of what the truth is. And so I want to create a safe environment where everyone can be asking those questions and really wrestle, and then hopefully move into a position where your response is to accept God and not reject him. But a lot of times, that's a process. So number two, second type of person that I think asks this question of, where is God? Where is this God of yours? The second type is actually Jesus himself. It's actually the Son of God. This to me is one of the best pictures of the humanity of Jesus in the Scriptures. If you're going to write a fairy tale, which a lot of times skeptics would say, gospel, it's just a fairy tale. It's just something that people wrote down long ago. If you were going to write a fairy tale, you wouldn't write this part in there. At least I wouldn't. But this verse is Matthew 27:46. And Jesus says, my God, why have you abandoned me? Here's what I love about this moment. You have Jesus. He's hanging on the cross, according to the Scriptures. And you get to see Jesus in his most human form. You probably have asked that question. If you've ever really wrestled with a relationship with God, why have you abandoned me? And Jesus himself asked God the same question. Isn't that like just It's mind-blowing to me. You have Jesus, who's the Son of God, God incarnate, but in that moment of despair, in that moment of loss, when he's hanging on the cross, he felt that human emotion that all of us feel when we walk into a situation that's bigger than us. And Jesus was in the ultimate moment of despair. He's dying. He's physically dying. He's in all kinds of pain. He's dying in one of the most brutal ways possible. And in that moment, his human emotion is, God, why have you abandoned me? And so if Jesus is going to ask that question of God, I think it's okay that you and I ask that question of God too every now and then. He's big enough to handle it. If he can handle it from his own Son, then he can handle it from you and I as well. But how's the response of Jesus? How does Jesus respond in that moment? And Jesus' response is, I think, just so telling of his character. It's so telling of his godhood. His response is, not your will, not my will, but yours be done. And he, in that moment, chooses to surrender and say, God, your way, not my way. So you can feel that emotion of abandonment, but then the right response is to stop and say, okay, God, not my will, but yours be done. Now that's a lot easier said than done, but the reality is that's the best response when we feel that moment or that season of abandonment, is that ultimate surrender. And that's how Jesus responded in that moment. And the third type of person that has asked this question, and this to me is just one of the most, just, again, if I was going to write this story, of the Gospels, I would not put this in there. To me, this really is the most telling piece of history we have in the gospel rendition when we get into the crucifixion week. Is the third type of person that asks this question about God, where are you, is his own followers, his own friends. His very best friends, the disciples, in this moment ask this question, where'd you go, God? Wait, I thought you were the Messiah, but this is not unfolding the way that I thought it would be. Matthew 26:56 says, very matter-of-factly, at this point, all the disciples deserted him and fled. Matthew 26:70-75 categorizes that Peter, Jesus' number one disciple, his main man, who he then ends up building his church upon. His dude, like the guy, like the guy's guy. Jesus, this is my man. I'm coming to earth and I'm going to pour into one guy, and he's going to be the guy that I'm going to build my church upon. In his lowest moment, he denies Jesus 3 times. In his lowest low, Peter goes, wait a second, this is not what I signed up for. Maybe this guy isn't who he says he was. Where is this God? Where did he go? Because this is not how I thought it would play out. I didn't think he'd be crucified. I didn't think he'd be arrested. But at that time, Peter's response to Jesus is he denies him 3 times. Have you ever been betrayed before? I've been betrayed. And it's a horrible, horrible feeling. Can you imagine how Jesus felt at that moment? All of his disciples, the guys he's poured into, lived 3 years with, trained up, gone. In a moment, gone. They flee. They're out. Peace out. It's been fun. It's been great knowing you, Jesus. I'm going to save my tail. Thank you. And I don't know about you, but I experienced this. This is when I was in the 2nd grade. I felt very, very betrayed. I had a crush on a girl named Patty Terrell. You can just have a moment for Patty Terrell. She was amazing. My wife Tara is like, who in the heck is Patty Terrell? Well, we'll talk about it later. But when in the 2nd grade, I mean, me and Patty were a thing. And Patty and I had we shared notes, and we kind of did the dating thing that you do in 2nd grade. And she was my girlfriend in the 2nd grade. And along came this other buddy of mine, and he was probably one of my closest friends. His name was Shannon. That should be a clue. The dude's name was Shannon. If you're a dude out there and your name is Shannon, I'm sorry. I just offended you. But I should have known there was something not right. But anyways, the dude's name is Shannon. And Shannon decides that he's going to, kind of make a play for Patty. So then one day before school, I remember, I can see this in my mind. This was now a long time ago. We'll just leave it at that. It was a long time ago. I remember sitting there before school, and we had this gym that we kind of got together in before school. They let us have free time and play, and then they would all call us together. And Patty comes up to me in the gym, and she goes, "I don't like you no more. I like Shannon." And so Shannon and I are going out, or whatever she said. And I got so angry. I lost my mind. So much so that I took this kid, Shannon, during recess that day. I'm even embarrassed to admit this. I took that kid, Shannon, and I took his head, and I pounded his head against a brick wall. Just boom, 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 boom. And then, during recess, I got out of there. Shannon was like a mess. I got called to the principal's office. This was a different time and era. I got spankings by the principal in the principal's office. My parents found out it was bad, but I was so mad. I was angry because I was betrayed. And that was how I responded in my moment of betrayal. And we all have moments of betrayal, right? We've all had that happen to us. But how does Jesus respond when he's betrayed? And to me, this is one of the most interesting elements of really how the scriptures end up playing out. Is Jesus in this moment, his response is to stay true to the course and to overcome by choosing to be raised from the dead and proceeding forward with the plan that he had in mind. That would not be how I would have responded in that moment of betrayal. And I think that what's really crazy about this situation is the disciples that we see in the gospel picture before Jesus dies on the cross are drastically different than the disciples we see afterwards. And to me, this is one of the very most compelling reasons, for why Jesus is who he says he is. And I think we have that up on the screen right now. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for Jesus is who he says he is the change in his disciples after the resurrection. He went from being this good teacher, he went from being a guy that, he's a good Messiah, yeah, I think I kind of believe in him, to now being resurrected from the dead and being the King of Kings. And what I think is so interesting is if one disciple, if just one, if we had a record of one disciple denying Jesus after he died on the cross, you and I would not be having Easter morning right now. You wouldn't be watching me. There would be no story to tell. Jesus would have faded away into history. He would no longer be even talked about or discussed. He would have just been a fleeting, passing prophet. Because if one of those disciples had denied him, we all would know it wouldn't have been true. But to me, one of the most compelling pieces that Jesus is who he says he was is the fact that the 11 remaining disciples, not the one that betrayed him before, which is Judas, but the 11 remaining disciples afterwards, they went to their graves believing that he rose from the dead. And if you take that away, to me, you have a really hard time reconciling the Gospels. But those disciples, they would have known, they would have knowingly known they were dying for a lie. Because they weren't willing to die for him beforehand. Those disciples were like, no, out, peace out, Jesus, not gonna do it. But then when they saw him be raised from the dead, they went, wait a second. He is who he says he was. He is the Messiah. And to me, that historical record is an incredibly strong argument that if you are a non-believer, if you are a skeptic, that you really need to address and reconcile. And you then have to look into the biblical evidence, you have to look into the supporting evidence to really get into, okay, is that a true or a factual statement? Because if 11 guys knowingly died for a lie, they're either lunatics or maybe they actually knew that this man was who he says he was. To me, it's one of the reasons why God is so trustworthy, is that historical record. So kind of back to the basic question is, where is this God of yours? Where is this God of yours in this crazy season of life that we live in? how do we respond? Like, where is God in all of this? Did God cause COVID? Come back in a couple weeks. I'll actually address that. I'm going to have a message called Is God to Blame? We're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. But for now, what I will say is that Jesus' response to death throughout the entire gospel record is that he always answers that death with life. Anytime someone dies, he always answers with life. Anytime someone is sick, he attempts to heal them. Anytime there's a demon, he tries to cast them out. So what I think is really an accurate portrayal is that if God causes sickness, death, and pain, then he's really wrestling against himself. And Jesus' response in that moment was to overcome his own personal death. He didn't escape from it. He still died on the cross. But ultimately, he overcame it and he conquered death. And so what I know is that I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what all of our personal situations hold. But what I do know is that I believe in a God that 11 guys knowingly would have died for a lie, and they were willing to place their bets on him no matter what happened, no matter what they faced, no matter how horrible life was, no matter what the challenges and obstacles were, they stayed true to him. Why? Because he conquered death. And that's the ultimate fear that all of us have. We all have our own mortality to wrestle with. And we get in seasons of life like this, and it becomes more pressing that we have to really wrestle with those questions. But ultimately, I'm going to place my trust in a God that always overcomes death with life. Maybe not in this life, but with eternal life. So if you're here this morning joining in, and you're really willing to wrestle with your own salvation, your own eternity, I want to invite you in this moment, on this very unique Easter Sunday, to make Jesus your Lord and King and to place your trust into him. And if you're willing to do that, I want to have you just bow with me right now, bow your head, and we're going to do this together in your living room or wherever you're at. And I'm just going to pray this prayer, and if that's you, I want you to join in and pray with me and really make this decision to place your confidence in the best form that you could ever trust it in. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I love you. I thank you for this time together. And Lord, I pray for those that are willing to pray this prayer of decision to believe in you, to just join and pray with me now, and that you would truly be with them in their homes, wherever they're at, that they would feel your presence, and that you would come in and do a new work in their life. So if that's you, just join in and pray with me. Lord Jesus, I confess my sins to you right now. I'm so thankful that you love me, that you died on the cross for me. I believe it. I believe what I've heard this morning. And I want to place my trust and my life into you. I ask that you would come in and make me new. I pray that you would teach me how to live for you. I give my life to you. Amen. Amen. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining in this morning. If you prayed that prayer with us, I want you to go ahead, if you're willing, to text the word BELIEVE to 33777, and we have a 12-week guide that we would just love to come alongside of you and just assist you during this time. We'd love to connect with you in any way that we can during this season to really support you, to help you grow. After making that decision, it's not just a decision, but then it's now to really make a new life commitment to living for God. And we want to just empower you to do that. So I want to invite you to do that. Otherwise, just want to say thank you to all of you for being with us here this Sunday, this great, amazing, unique Easter Sunday. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be back next Sunday. Have a great Easter, everyone.